Daniel. Good to see you again.
Hey there, Brian. Good to see you too.
Welcome to episode 2. I think for this week, you have something that you wanted to highlight to everyone. It's been melting down the internet as much as melting down some servers. But yeah, over to you to go into more detail.
Yes, I think when we started this or discussed having this podcast, we said let's not be the next show that just goes across every tool that's new and everything that's happening. But this week, episode 2, I think we need to make a bit of an exemption to that, because what you're referring to is obviously the update by OpenAI to their image generation model that they announced sometime last week. And it's been very much melting the internet, not only with everything being Studio Ghibli style now, every meme that you can imagine. I'm sure you had a lot of these in your streams, whichever channel you're looking at. Now, but I wanted to talk about this more from a general perspective. So let me share a couple of things with you. I'm well prepared for this episode. I have actually done some experimentation. So let me get to this. And I just need to select.
Very rarely get to be on the other side of the grand reveals.
So this is obviously the ChatGPT, or in this case, Sora, landing page, and this is the latest, like all what the community has been creating. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but you can already see what people are building. They are going crazy with all kinds of memes and weird combinations of styles. One thing to definitely point out is that obviously this new version of the ChatGPT image generator has apparently a very good grasp of well-known famous people and has absolutely no respect in rendering them and bringing them up on screen.
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah, to say the least. So that's happening. What I wanted to talk about is, to me, it's not about making ourselves or any meme now Studio Ghibli style or Minecraft style or whatever style we want. There have been other image generators that were quite capable of these. I've been playing around with many different tools over the last year or 2 years even. But what the big difference this time is that this is the first one that actually gets context, like ChatGPT would do in a chat and chatbot AI circumstance. But in this case, it's also affecting the image generation. So I did some personal examples just to explain why I think this is quite a big deal. So I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this brand of hot sauce. It's quite a global one. This has been sitting, as you can tell from the mess in the background, on my kitchen table. And just to demonstrate the capabilities of this, I took this shot with my phone, and then I asked my wife what kind of style she would want this picture to be in. So she said, well, do it Franz Marc. And then that's what ChatGPT did quite well. So it took up the backdrop, it took up the whole style of expressionism in this, and it created a nice picture. Well, that alone isn't the big deal here. It's that now I can iteratively work with that development. And next thing was that I said, well, sorry, this is in German. Please, can you put a frame around this and hang it up on a museum's wall? And it did. It did change the style of the picture slightly. It looks a bit different, but it's still arguably expressionism style. It could be a Franz Marc picture. And then to do some more exploration with this, I also said, hey, can you turn this into an Instagram post to sell the product? Well, the first thing that ChatGPT did isn't create a new picture, but it basically gave me the outline of an Instagram post. And the interesting thing here is, without me doing any other prompt than turn this into an Instagram post to sell the product, it came back with, just based on the picture I submitted, it came back with a nice tagline, warning the sauce does not play around. It completely got the backdrop of what Frank Hot Sauce is about. It had a bit of a playful tone to it. Just add a few drops and boom, flavor unlocked. It provided the emojis and even quite funny hashtags, to be honest, like put that shit on everything as a hashtag. But it obviously didn't get that I wanted a picture. So I asked, can you create an image for that? And the first one failed. So this was the first effort where it kind of took the bottle. It's a bit skewed. And it didn't even do the copy well, which I guess was more of a glitch in the system, because one of the big news for this update on ChatGPT is that it does do copy well. So I tried again and said, can you create a clean ad? Which it did. And then I asked again for a mock-up of in this case, a LinkedIn post. And it did the same thing. Then I asked, but it suggested, hey, do you want me to draw this for you? Said, yes, please. There was one little issue. And then I went again, can you like a visual mock-up for an Instagram post? And then I did this. And here, that was the first time that it really got basically everything that I wanted. So it picked up all of the copy that it suggested in the layout. It understood what I wanted to do. It came up with inventing an account that this post could land on. I didn't ask for any of this. It basically got all of the copyright. There's no, as far as I can see, there's no typo in there, nothing. There's the hashtags. So basically, that's the more, I'm not arguing about the style and the artistic creativity here, but in general, this is a perfect mockup. And that's literally just based on me providing a picture and asking for a social media mockup. And then the last thing I did is I said, well, let's create a proper lifestyle shot that could be used in an ad. So I give a bit more background, like a couple of friends sitting around a table, pizza night. And then it did this. So I didn't come up with a copy. I didn't come up with any more brief than a couple of lines of, hey, come up with this post. And this could completely be a full bleed advertisement in a print magazine, for example. So I think that's already quite impressive in how far you can actually take this. And then the last thing I did is another Instagram mockup, basically with the same setup. And again, the copy is great. It understood what I wanted. And this is the first time I'm having this kind of experience using an image generator. So just to take it a bit further, I demonstrated this last week to Carsten and Alex, our creative directors in the German team. So I said, hey, let's have a bit of play around with this. So we took a quick selfie ourselves. Carsten requested a Warhol style. I probably arguably not sure if how good of a Warhol impression this is, but I guess the colors speak for themselves. It also, I'm not happy with how I look in this picture, but that's another, that's not the topic. And what I did then is we were having an offsite meeting. So I just took a picture of the meeting room wall. They can see here. And then I asked ChatGPT to please hang up that picture on the wall. And it's literally, again, it was like, what is this? 8 words of prompt. They said, hang that picture up on the wall, please. And it did it perfectly. Right? There's like, it's slightly skewed to match the perspective. It even got rid of the background panel of this whole coffee station arrangement here. So you can see here up here, there's a black panel. It got rid of that, but it still put the picture behind these lamps or whatever set in front. It rendered like a new face for my colleague there because the information wasn't in the first one. But I'm just impressed on how well this works. As like, if I just wanted to visualize something to somebody, it's incredible what I can do. I took it further and I took a picture of my kid's bedroom. I'm not even embarrassed about the mess because I guess that's how every children's bedroom ages 6 to 8
doesn't
looks
even
like.
qualify as mess, I don't think, for a kid's bedroom.
And then I said, hey, can you clean this up? And just take a look at this. So there's like this bunk bed, there's a cupboard, there's a couple of Playmobil stuff lying around, there's the doll house. And what ChatGPT then did is basically it perfectly cleaned up the room. It understood there's a carpet lying around. My daughter's playhouse ended up being red instead of blue. But everything else is pretty perfect. The lamp is exactly the same. The bunk bed looks the same. The cupboard is at the right place. This one is a bit different. And just imagine what this may do to like when you want to rent out a place. You could take a picture of any messy room and just say, make this pretty, make this beautiful, make it empty, stuff like that. And then there's one specifically for you. And this goes into the whole copy and text editing. I just said, can you create an infographic with the most important sites of Singapore? Make it look like sketches and give 2 facts of why visiting the recommended per site. And I think this is also pretty perfect, right? This is, it understood what Singapore is, like the sites. You be the judge if it's the best sites to go to. I didn't ask for 4. I just said the best ones.
It's definitely some of the most popular, yeah. And then the text rendering is the amazing thing. I mean, it looks a bit Gardens by the Bay, I think, got a little.
Yeah, that's the only one
there.
here.
But for the rest of it, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And then the last example, I asked it to come up with a mock-up for our a website if we wanted to do one for our podcast. So the prompt here was do a visual mock-up for a website for the podcast titled Prompt and Circumstances. And then the info is just what's on our YouTube channel, right? This is just Brian and Daniel discuss all things AI, yada, yada. And then it came up with this. And I mean, you be the judge if you like that version of Brian Keane, but I'm not so happy with mine. I mean, I know I don't
I
have
was
too
about
much
to
hair,
say,
but
yeah, it's
yeah. But anyways, it's again, right? This is a perfectly fine landing page mockup, right? If you would go into a pitch situation and you want to visualize something for a client, it would totally do the job. So this is why I thought, and now I'm done with my intro presentation. So what I wanted to discuss with you is how you feel about what this may do to our industry beyond the adapting styles and being like making it very easy for everyone to create beautiful pictures, but this context understanding, that's what really blew my mind the more I saw of that. So what's your take on this? How do you feel when you see this?
it's pretty incredible. I think it begs some questions, big and small, or I should say, immediate and long term. So immediately, it says that there's been a resetting, I guess, of the playing field. A lot of smaller, independent loan operators or boutique agencies or um, creative consortiums or freelance consultants now have the power at their fingertips to do work that is in many ways comparable to the mega shops, the holding
Uh-huh.
companies, the huge global agencies. So it is, I think, resetting a lot of or has the potential to reset a lot of the status quo of clients choosing the people that they work with for their skill, for their ideas, for the depth of experience that they bring to the table, and perhaps holding them at less of a disadvantage of not having the depth of resource and technology that formerly held them back and that was only reserved for those mega companies.
Mhm.
It's going to increase the floor. The question for me is it going to push the ceiling, or is it going to cause this kind of homogenization where most of the advertising out there will start to become and look a lot the same? Will people start to be able to develop a third sense to spot something and go, that's AI generated? I can't really put my finger on it, but there's something about it that is in the copy, in the visual, in that it's
Mhm.
mimicking a different style that is AI generated, and they'll tune out. I was listening to a futurist on AI the other day, and their prediction was that eventually the internet will get so flooded with
Mhm.
AI generated content that it will have the opposite effect to what people think. Instead of people becoming more open to personalized emails in their inboxes or to really like um, custom tailored social posts or to hyper targeted super local advertising, they'll actually just disregard all that because they're too flooded with it, and they will prioritize human connection,
Uh-huh.
and they will gravitate towards in-person meetings because it'll be one of the few forums that you can actually trust,
Uh-huh.
sitting across someone face to face. Even getting a call from someone, you'll be a bit dubious in the back of your mind if it's AI generated in
Yeah.
some capacity.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of the bigger question. But I think the more immediate thing is excitement for what it can do, but these big looming questions in the background.
I'm pretty aligned with that. My reaction is that it will make, at first, for the next couple of months, it will make a lot, many more people jump into the whole AI game and try things out, from professionals, as very much to your point, smaller shops that are now capable of producing 95% the same quality, at least like on the first stage with any of the big shops. But it also on a personal level, people will start doing invitations to their parties using this,
Hmm.
or create posters for their home decoration with that feature themselves in a movie poster. It's also something that people do all the time in on this landing page. Um, so that level of, how would you call it, maybe adapted creativity is opening
Hmm.
up to everyone. And I think pretty much to your point about the real human connection, also the creative assessment will up level, or will switch, will pivot towards you can't impress, like from a professional agency perspective, you can't impress a client much anymore with a beautiful mockup
Mhm.
that you bring to, for example, a pitch presentation, because everybody can do that easily. And it's in that situation, it doesn't matter if there's a typo in the last line of the mockup. Nobody cares. But to get your visual idea across, everybody can do that basically. So the question on creativity will be, how far are you actually able to push it? What
Yeah.
crazy idea can you come up with that you then have the tool just visualize for yourself or
Yeah.
for the
Best
campaign?
idea wins. I mean, that's always the
Yeah,
dream when you walk into
yeah,
a
yeah,
pitch scenario. Is it finally going to come true?
yeah. So I'm
The potential counterpoint to that, though, is we do see a lot of the best models being reserved for the highest payment tiers. You know,
Mhm,
the bleeding edge stuff is the $200 a month pro subscription or the pre-release um, model, or
mhm,
eventually are we going to see as we do with all other SaaS software out there, a real tiering of like companies will pay an exorbitant enterprise fee to get access to the best stuff, and then there'll be a slope down to the freemium version that everybody else has access to.
yeah. I think that's a bit of I'm in two minds about this. So first of all, I don't think $200 a month is much for what you can get out of these
True.
tools. It may feel a lot from if you would use it as a private person. Obviously, that's quite a high subscription or a costly subscription. If you use it in any professional manner, it's still cheaper than buying a new edition of Photoshop every year. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it justice because I'm not completely familiar with the pricing structure of
Yeah.
Photoshop or for Adobe there, but it feels like that, right? You don't buy like $1,000 of or a couple of $1,000s of software. You don't even have to get a new system. You can run this on your phone, right?
Mm.
You don't need the power of a capable Mac or high level machine anymore. So I don't think that's the challenge. And on the corporate side, yes, there may be reservations or there may be some features reserved to the highest payers. But then if you look at how, for example, Copilot or the enterprise versions of ChatGPT that you can buy,
Mm.
they're usually a couple of iterations behind even the
Yeah.
what you're able to
True.
do
True.
with these. So I know when I talked about these features of ChatGPT to some of the team last week, the first question was, "Oh, amazing! Copilot is based on ChatGPT. Can I use it there?" And not yet, apparently. Right? Copilot is
Yeah.
still using Dolly, which was the previous image generation model. I'm hoping it will switch and up level
Mm.
to that level of ChatGPT's image generator soon. So I'm not as concerned as you may be on the highest payer gets the best models. Also, there's this whole open source movement
Mm.
that's been going on for specifically image and video generation. But I think it's yeah, to your point, the best idea wins, and that's an exciting thought. But I guess the other thing, and I'm very curious on your point of view on this, is what does it do to copyright? Because you saw that I used a famous global hot sauce brand, and I did a lot of weird things to that. Uh,
Mm. Yeah, you're gonna get a cease and desist from Frank's in the mail tomorrow.
yeah. Well, I'm advertising for them, so they should send me a check rather than that. But it's no, but the real question is, and you saw that on the landing page. Let's pull this up again from. If you look at this, here's Keanu Reeves in 5 iterations. Well, 4. This one doesn't look like him. Um, this is a take on. I think that's a game that's like Fortnite or something. Um, there's personal. This is Sam Altman and
Mm.
what is this Pokemon style card Dune. You see that there's. This is just literally the first like 20 images I found
Yeah.
and there's already all kinds of styles copied, famous people, um, sopranos, as you can see. So there's already so much. There's already so much, very much on the edge of what would be like. You could go after half of this probably if you're looking at this from a legal point of view. So
Yeah.
the question is, also we if we want to look at this from a professional agency's perspective, what's our point of view with regard to that? What do we tell our clients? How should they explore this? Should they be completely going crazy, be bold, be out there? Should they be
Yeah.
reserved? What's your view on this?
I, I think it depends on the client's appetite for innovation and in some regards for risk taking. Um, it's a very much legal gray area right now. There are a lot of open and ongoing and pending lawsuits against the companies behind the models for how they've actually trained these things. You know, did they um, train them from ill-gotten data sets?
Uh-huh.
Are they training them still from broadly scraping the internet? It's still so early in um, the legal process that it's unclear what the ultimate future is going to be, what the ultimate outcome is going to be um, at a global level, let alone country by country, um, because different markets have vastly different regulatory outlooks on AI um, and data
Uh-huh.
privacy and IP copyright. Um, if I was counseling clients, I would say now is the time to explore innovation, but be cautious about wholesale adoption at a
Uh-huh.
global level unless you have very tight um, kind of copyright that you own the original the original image that's been put in as a prompt that you own or have properly licensed. Um, any kind of actors that appear in it or people that appear in it, the backgrounds, and anything about it. Um, and I'd be cautious about assuming that they can integrate this into their long term data stacks. Um, I think right now everyone's assuming that it's a fait accompli that every agency is going to wholesale jump into the deep end on AI. They're going to adopt all these tools. It's going to revolutionize the model. But that's also been promised or explored for the past like 3-4 years and hasn't fully come to
Uh-huh.
realization yet. Um, and that's without legal challenges. It's without eventually these companies turning on some kind of more expensive paid tiers than $200 a month. I agree.
Uh-huh.
I think that's the adoption phase that they're subsidizing mass use, but at some point they're going to have to pay for their massive server and data hosting costs. Um,
Uh-huh.
and there could be individual claims against a style from an individual creative out there that's been co-opted by somebody else. So I would caution them overall, like tiptoe down the path a bit more. Don't jump in yet
Uh-huh.
with 2 feet.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the discussion around owning original copyright on a certain style of or even like the original layout of a certain picture is something that discussion has been going on since the first AI generators
Mm.
came out, and so I think this is going to accelerate all of that to whatever outcome. We may end up with a completely new global understanding of copyright and how to own it and what to do with that. Or we may see some regions. Europe is usually prone to being avant-garde in that, like
Mm.
limiting and shutting down use or going after misuse. So that's the one thing. So I'm completely with you. As a brand, you shouldn't dive into this too naively. But I would also expect of ourselves as an agency, and also of, like, if I was a client, I would expect to see more um, creative ideas in the concepting phase, because this is now,
Mm.
there's no argument to not being able to put forward the most crazy idea and make people understand it by showing them a couple of visuals that outline how it
Yeah,
can look
agree,
like.
agree.
And then as soon as you move to production, obviously that is where you should then fall back to using the designers to actually
Yeah,
compile a picture that's using original material, licensed material. I'm a bit afraid this may lead to situations where the concepting looked better because it had no limits than the end product, because it has to adhere to certain limitations.
Isn't
But
that the
still, I
case
think,
in
yeah,
many pitches though?
yeah,
The pitch idea sells this dream that the ultimate campaign falls short of.
yeah, yeah. That's very true. I was more thinking like from an advertising perspective, where you have the most beautiful models, the most the best paid photographers, like 20 people on set, and then still it gets photoshopped afterwards to look even better than that.
Yeah.
Um, where we end up with these incredibly beautiful advertisements, specifically in the beauty or self care space. But yeah, you're right. Concept is usually more far out. But I would expect, and I have this ambition for ourselves to just
Hmm.
be more creative, bolder in ideas that we can put forward, because not being able to visualize them at short notice is probably not an argument any longer. So yeah.
Very true. Yeah. I hope that it doesn't. I'm optimistic for the creative potential. I hope it doesn't cause a kind of sacrifice of the craft. There needs to be that place for creatives to think of the original prompt to put in, to think of
Uh-huh.
the possibilities. I hope it doesn't cause some clients, and I do think it will, unfortunately, to go, oh, great, I know that this thing can instantly generate wild ideas, 20 a piece, 100 a piece. So I am going to give you a brief on a Friday and I want it back on a Monday. I am going to give you like these crazy short timelines to work on. So I hope it isn't a race to the bottom in terms of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I invite everyone, as I've been doing, to play around with these tools, and you will get to a point where you realize it's still a certain skill, even if the tools are very easy to use. There's a certain skill of understanding what might be possible, where the tools are struggling, how to circumvent any issues that they might be having. And eventually, it's still probably going to be easier to, like, use that Singapore infographic example. I'm not sure if it's quicker. I didn't try. If it's quicker to try and re-prompt it to get that misspelling, that typo correct, or if it wouldn't be quicker to ask a skilled designer
Mm,
to literally adapt this manually. Um, so it's probably like an exaggerated Pareto principle or something, where you get 70% of the work done very, very quickly. But to make the last 30%, or even just 20%, if you don't aim for like best of industry, but just want something decent, it's going to still take some properly skilled labor to get it across the line to the 90 or 100 or 120%, then wherever you want to land
yeah,
eventually.
absolutely.
So yeah,
Even for the tools themselves, I mean, the best outcome
yeah,
is usually like being the conductor of an orchestra of different AI tools where
very
you
right. Yeah,
pass from one to the next and they all complement each other
yeah,
versus there being the silver bullet perfect tool that does everything you need it to.
yeah. No, I totally agree. So maybe, do we want to leave it there, with a slight optimistic but um,
It'll all be
careful
okay, we
caveat?
swear.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited. I think we will see a large push in general creativity, and then definitely material for a future episode to discuss the societal impact of that. When crazy creative is ubiquitous and everybody can do it, what does it mean for, like, what kind of campaigns are we going to see winning in Cannes and like next year or the year after, when everybody can come up with the most beautiful visuals and all those things? So I think that's
Sure. Just
a
gonna be
bigger
table
discussion.
stakes.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for the discussion this morning, afternoon,
Likewise. See you
and
again soon for episode 3.
yes, looking forward to that. Thanks, Brian. Bye.
Bye bye.